Hey guys, the last Wordslinger here, and I'm here to talk to you about Morning Glory. Yeah, Morning Glory. Where to begin? Well, I should say first and foremost that if you're a fan of fluff, you will enjoy Morning Glory. It wasn't the greatest movie of the year, not by a long shot, and to be completely honest, it wasn't even that great of a comedy. There were a few moments that I had a good chuckle, but they were few and far between. If you're not familiar with Morning Glory is the story about a young up-and-coming producer played by Rachel McAdams, who gets a job to be the executive producer of a failing morning show, hosted by Diane Keaton. But Rachel McAdams' character Becky proceeds to fire the other co-host, the one opposite of Diane Keaton, and she somehow attempts to hire Harrison Ford's character, who is a cross between like Edward R. Murrow and some other news anchor. You know, he's just an amalgamation of all the gritty, serious. News is supposed to be serious and big, and you know, and none of this silly crap kind of character. And Rachel McAdams' character Becky somehow hires him to be the co-host. So that is the whole premise of the thing is that she struggles to try and get this morning show to be successful, so she doesn't lose her job, and so the show doesn't get canceled. All right, now that I've explained to you the premise, let's talk about it. Like I said, it's pretty fluffy, which is funny on many levels because it is in fact fluffy. But there's also an inside joke within the movie about the word fluffy. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But it's a very fluff film. There's really not a lot of substance to it. I mean, part of the problem is that the movie could have been great, but the screenplay was pretty average. I mean, specifically the main character of Becky. Now, I mean, I don't even know where this character was supposed to be. The screenplay really wasn't sure where this character was supposed to be, or who she was supposed to be, or where she was supposed to go, which is upsetting because Rachel McAdams is a good actress. I've enjoyed a lot of her other movies. The Notebook was specifically off the top of my head. Unfortunately, I can't think of any more Rachel McAdams movies right off. But that's one example of a movie that she was in that I found enjoyable. But in this particular film, and I don't think it's her fault, but in this particular film, I believe the screenplay writers and the director just couldn't figure out what kind of person Becky was supposed to be. And what I mean by that is she was just all over the place. I mean, one minute she's this frantic, spazzy woman who is like frantically trying to keep everything together, and the next minute she's very calm and introspective, and you know, and then the next minute she's emotional and she's crying, breaking down. I mean, it was just all over the place. And you know, normally, you know, these extremes are acceptable if they're done if it's well done, and it just really wasn't in this particular film, unfortunately. Another characterization problem was Harrison Ford's character. Harrison Ford's character was not at all likable. I mean, he was likable in the sense that, you know, he was the grizzled old, you know, guy that, you know, it's funny to see him be mean kind of thing. But, you know, as far as being a likable character in that, you know, every other character can like him, he just didn't show any signs of that until like at least 2/3 of the way through the movie. I mean, throughout the first 2/3 of the movie, he was just this rotten old man who just wouldn't compromise on anything. And it was pretty horrible to watch, because you just wanted his character to show some signs of humanity, and he just refused to do it until the end of the movie. and normally in situations like that, I would be like, come on, you can do it. But it just didn't happen until the very end. Diane Keaton's character suffered some of the same problems as Rachel McAdams' character did, except on a much lesser scale, because she was a secondary character in this whole thing. The movie was primarily revolving around Rachel McAdams' character Becky and Harrison Ford's character, and then Diane Keaton's character in that order. But Diane Keaton's character, she was all over the place too, man. I mean, I don't even know how to really describe it. I mean, she wasn't nearly as all over the place as Rachel McAdams' character, but still, she had, to a much lesser degree, her character was all over the place as well, and that made it at times a little unbearable to watch. And again, I like Diane Keaton. She's a good actress. But I just don't think... I don't blame the actors at all for these particular performances. I blame the direction and the writing. And I just wish... this movie could have been a lot better than it was. It could have been a really good comedy, or a really lighthearted, I don't want to say it's a coming-of-age comedy, but it could have really been a good... I don't even know what kind of comedy it would be described as. It wasn't a romantic comedy, not by a long shot. It wasn't a coming-of-age comedy. Well, whatever type of comedy it is, it could have been done a lot better. And that's really unfortunate, because I was hoping to be surprised by it, and apparently I was right on the mark. I mean, it's not a horrible movie by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't a horrible movie. It was a little less than mediocre. It was like, here's average, and Morning Glory falls right about here. And terrible's all down here, and Morning Glory falls just under average. And another issue with the movie is that it seemed way too long. Again, 2/3 of the way through the movie, I was thinking, when the hell is this movie gonna end? When are we gonna get some resolution? Yes, and it was predictable as well. Not only was it long, it was also predictable. So you're about 2/3 of the way through the movie, and you can already guess what's going to happen. And you're just waiting for it to happen at that point. There were no surprises at all. So, and I hate when that happens, because, you feel like you spent the money on these movie tickets, and you're just sitting there, and when you've already figured out what the end is going to be, and you're waiting for it, and you're like 20, 30 minutes away from the actual end, when, your guesses, when your assumptions and your guesses about what the end is going to be are confirmed, all you're doing is just sitting there. It's let me think of an example of how to put this. How to explain it. It's kind of like reading a book. Let's go with this analogy. It's kind of like you begin reading a book that has this fantastic ending, and a friend of yours tells you what the ending is going to be when you're only halfway through. From that halfway point that you find out what the ending is going to be all the way to that ending, all you're doing is just reading from there. All that middle section up until the end is just you waiting to see how that end point, how the characters get from there to there. And that's basically what happens in Morning Glory, is all right, I know everything's going to be resolved in this fashion, now we're just waiting to see how it all comes together. And it just bothered me, I haven't seen a lot of comedies in this day and age that that have really made me laugh, unfortunately. And that's another thing about the movie. The comedy portions of it felt, a lot of the comedy portions of it felt really kind of shoved in there unnecessarily, like they were trying to make it funnier than the screenplay originally allowed. I think honestly, if they had not shoehorned all those comedic bits in there, then it would have been like I said, I didn't really laugh so much, but I figure somebody that would have laughed a lot at this movie would have had significantly fewer laughs. So that was another issue I had, was that a lot of the comedic moments felt really shoehorned in, and thus, comedic bits that are shoehorned into a movie aren't really funny to me. That weatherman was the best. I don't know who those were the only sections that I really laughed at, were the weatherman. I don't know who played the weatherman, but the weatherman in the morning show that Rachel McAdams' character was executive producer of. Basically, what she did to bolster ratings was she took the weatherman, who was this old, I'm not saying he's like ancient, but he's like probably in his like 50s or 60s or something. He's an older gentleman. And she basically took this really mild-mannered weatherman, and she started putting him into these dangerous, not dangerous, but these like really extreme situations. Like she started off by, he was reporting about a roller coaster, and then she decided to put him on the roller coaster for his report. And then she had him go skydiving, and then she had him go in a jet plane, and and all those sort of things. And those segments were the funniest to me, because watching this poor old man just like scream his head off because he's just put into these horrible situations, that was amusing to me. And I guess I'm just a little bit of a bad person for finding that funny, but but those were the funniest bits to me. Yeah, if you like fluff, go ahead and see Morning Glory, but honestly, I wouldn't spend the money on it. There are probably better movies out there, better comedies, or better dramas, if you want to even compare Morning Glory to a drama. There are better movies that fall within these genres that you could spend your money on and check out. So until next time, I'll be back with another movie review as soon as I see one. Catch you guys later.